everybody, and welcome to the Ripple Intent podcast. Ripple Intent is a great organization that helps people be better human beings. My name is Sarah Armstrong. I'm marketing manager at FCI Constructors, a general contractor in Colorado and several other states. I am joined by my friend,
Stacey Root. Hello, Sarah. Happy to be here. I lead the health practice for Canon Design here in Denver, and I'd like to introduce our host today. We have with us, as always, Jon Grant. So a little context, everyone. We are actually meeting, all four of us, in a room together, and I think this is a bit of an experiment for the Ripple Intent hosts. And so they said, well, you guys go ahead and kick us off. So that's what's happening, which means I'm looking directly at Jon, and he's cracking up, as is Kyle. And okay, so Jon, who are you? Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, thanks, Stacey. So my name's Jon Grant. I'm one of the regular hosts on the podcast, but we do have a couple of Maximizers in the room who were like, you know, guys, we know how to make this better. So I think it's a great start. I love it. Oh, by the way, hi, listener. Great to see you.
Oh, we're supposed to say that?
No, that's what I get to do.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. Hi,
That's
listener.
right.
I can't see you,
Whatever town
but
you happen to be
I'd
in.
like to see you.
All right, whatever town you happen to be in.
We're in towns everywhere.
Everywhere.
Wherever you find a town, that's where we are.
That's right.
Kyle?
That's right. Yep, I'm Kyle. I'm here.
Kyle Makrowski.
You can introduce me. Go ahead.
Sure, I'll take a stab at it.
Sure.
One of the founders of Ripple Intent also happens to sit on the owner's side. I'm not even going to say the name of the owner because that's not really the point. And what else? I mean, you're super passionate about just making our industry better and helping people just be better humans along the way. We don't all have to fight tooth and nail all the time just to get a project built. And so I'm really appreciative of all the work that has gone into Ripple Intent and led in large part by Kyle and Jon too. But
I appreciate that. No, it's good. This is a lot of fun, and I'm glad we're doing this because we, like you said, this is the first one we're doing in person in an actual podcast studio. So shout out to the Link in Greeley, Colorado, which is the most, I'd say, the coolest library I've ever been in my life. If you ever get a chance to visit Greeley, Colorado, it has some pretty amazing things, which includes this place. The journey of how this library came to be is a whole podcast and a story in itself. And so huge kudos and recognition to the folks and all the people who make it happen and allow this facility to function every day. But that's not what we're here for today. Today we're here to talk about, we'll talk about what? What are we're diving into? Talking about life as a maximizer. So as a lot of you know who are listening, we spend a lot of time with Clifton Strengths and the self-awareness that comes with that and the impacts on our life in a variety of ways. And what's amazing here is that we have two people, Sarah and Stacey, who have the Maximizer Strength in their top 5. And so the way that comes across is absolutely intriguing, amazing. And the self-awareness that they've gained because of knowing that has been a pretty interesting journey. And that's what we want to kind of talk through today and see where that takes us. For those of you who don't know, the short snippet of what a maximizer is, according to Clifton Strengths for Gallup, is people who are especially talented in the maximizer theme focus on strengths in a way to stimulate personal and group excellence. They seek to transform something strong into something superb. And I think when we were chatting about what we were going to talk about today, Sarah, that right there is, that's you.
Well, I hope so. I mean, it manifests itself in different ways, certainly for different people. And just the conversation that we had earlier, the way that Stacey lives her life with Maximizer versus the way I live my life with Maximizer are a little bit different, but a lot of things are the same. And I didn't know about Maximizer until 2020 when I went to my first Ripple Intent symposium and took the assessment. And lo and behold, it's number 1 for me. According to Gallup, there are only 17 people that have taken the assessment all across the world that have Maximizer in their top 5. So while that makes me feel pretty special, it also made me really have to learn what it meant to me and to the team that I work with, the teams that I work with every day. And something that I have figured out is that I really can take something that is already great and make it even greater make it better. Try to figure out how each person on a team benefits that team and how to really bring that out so that we are doing our best work.
It sounds amazing. I mean, it sounds like what every team needs is somebody to take them from where they are and make them even better. And Stacey, just where's that fallen in your top 5? And
Yeah, well, I mean, even to the point where I don't understand somebody who wouldn't want to be on a team that doesn't want to make things better. Like, to me, that's the whole point of being on a team, right? So that's how it comes out. So I first did a Strength Finders workshop back in, I think it's been a while. It was like 2010-ish. And the very first time I ran through the strengths, the little printer pops up and it says my top strength was a ranger. And oh my gosh, I was so mad. Like, if you look at the list of strengths, this is so not sexy. It's like a ranger? What on earth is that? That's so boring. And then kind of as I walk through the rest, so a ranger, individualization, empathy, and then maximizer was my number 4. I didn't realize it was your number 1. Mm-hmm. That must be horrible. So maximizer for me comes in at number 4, and then followed by ideation, and then adaptability and positivity. And so it wasn't until I did my second Strengths Finders workshop that it all really started to click. The first go around, like I said, I was really just mad. And then the second one was a lengthy workshop. I think it was a full day we spent with Christian Packel on a project team, a full IPD project. And the light bulb just totally went off for me. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so when I look at that list of my top 7, call it, of those, 6 of them really are about adjusting and movement and not being still and like just taking in a lot of inputs. And so what I realized was that maximizer layering and feathering with the others all together, so especially a ranger, individualization, adaptability, ideation, really what that means is that for me, the way I live in the world, it feels like it's just popcorn. Like everything all the time is just constantly in flux, constantly in motion. And fortunately, the ranger strength at the top is the thing that makes it possible for me to assemble and reassemble and choreograph and re-choreograph and eventually land on something that is the best it can be. It's because the inputs are constantly changing, and I'm able to orchestrate all of it in a way that it lands right where I want it to. So that's how the maximizer shows up in me. It definitely has the basements for sure. So, I've been living with this for 14 years now, and I am only still just getting my arms around what it means and how it shows up for me, both personally and professionally. And actually, Sarah, can you chat a little bit about the raw versus mature? Because I think that's a really cool conversation we can have.
Yeah, sure. So the Gallup website has these great links to YouTube videos that they do on their call to coaching, and they dive deep into all the different strengths individually. And listening to them talk about each one, they talk about a raw version versus a mature version. And so 14 years ago when you discovered that Maximizer was in your top 5, you were still in the raw version of it. And, we try to figure out what it means to us and how it applies to our lives personally and professionally. And a lot of times the raw version of Maximizer comes off very poorly. If you lead anybody and you're trying to make what they do better, it comes across as, I'm pointing out what you do wrong, and I want you to do it like I would do it. So it comes off as sort of an air of superiority or some form that probably doesn't come across the way you intended it to come across. As you become more comfortable in Maximizer and you become more comfortable with the people that you are surrounded by, and you can support their strengths on your team, that's when your Maximizer becomes more mature. And so a mature version of a Maximizer is one who calls on each individual in their team and the strengths that they bring to that team and realizes, you know what, you're really good at this or this, and I want you to focus on that, and we're going to be amazing. And it isn't so much like you need to cross all your T's and dot all your I's, and the color of this needs to be different, and the this and the that. It's that nitpicky sort of basement thing that you come out of as you mature as a maximizer.
You talked earlier, Sarah, about editing. Like when somebody puts something in front of you, you just instantly see all the missing commas and the grammatical. I do as well. And to be honest, I always associated that to the fact that my mom taught English and taught us all properly, like how to edit, how to speak properly. And that was of great value to me as a kid growing up. And to hear you say that that is also something you go straight to, I'm now questioning, maybe it actually comes from a different, maybe it's part of stemming from this strength of like, that could be better.
I do believe that some of it is inherent too, because I did get that from my parents as well. You know, grammatical correction was a regular thing in our house. I have a coffee mug that says it's a fine line between wanting friends and correcting grammar, and it absolutely applies to me. And so I do believe that if I were raised by different parents that didn't care so much about it, maybe the maximizer wouldn't be so high.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
Nature
that's
versus
awesome.
nurture is
Right.
where these come from. But I want to talk about, go back to the raw for a second, because how do people experience them? For those of us who don't have Maximizer high on our strengths, how do we experience you on a day-to-day basis
Well,
in that raw capacity?
yeah, I mean, I could guess because I've been told that it's pretty awful, honestly, because particularly if you're someone that doesn't take feedback well in general, it just my asking for more is always going to be, it's not going to strike a chord. It's just going to be tough. And so I think one thing that I've learned is that people that I work with regularly that know this about me and that I know about their strengths, and I can start to, like Sarah was describing, draw out of people where they do shine and just work my darndest to try to ignore the rest and focus on what they're really, really good at and put them in a spot where they can leverage that. I think I do better when I know people. When I don't know people, I get tripped up really, really fast. And I think it's just because, it can come across as, Sarah implied, like it is abrupt, or it's rude, or it's I'm a know-it-all, or it's my way is the best way or the only way, or, we could just banter back and forth on what this actually feels like to someone on the outside. And it's really tough. And it has happened, guys, it happened yesterday. I learned, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but I learned that I actually did really hurt someone's feelings. And living with that it's just awful because that is never my intent. It is just my nature to try to make it better. And when it comes across incorrectly, for whatever reason, it's either their perspective or my delivery or who knows the why, it doesn't really matter. It crushes me to know that, at the cost of making something better, someone got hurt. That's really kind of awful.
See, I remember one of the very first times I experienced it with you was one of our first breakfast clubs in Denver. We were over at U.S. Engineering, and you participated. And afterwards, you came up and you took a big breath. I remember this like it was yesterday. You took a big breath, and you went, okay, this was great, but... and you rattled into this and this and this and this, and it was well received. I didn't really know you at the time, but I was like, this woman's got some pretty deep stuff here and some very intelligent comments, to where the person I was presenting with, their response was, "What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding? I just put my heart and soul into this thing, and the first thing you do is you come up and you criticize me." And I didn't take it that way at all. I think that's partly because I don't have a whole lot of relationship-based strengths in my top 5. It was very much more on the, okay, I feel you're genuine, and I think what you're going to share is going to help improve what we just did, so let's see where this goes, as opposed to taking it, I would say take it personally, because that's not fair. It's just I think my strengths allowed it for it to go. And then you did the same thing when we did our first symposium. We had one of our keynote speakers up there, and you were the very first person I went to afterwards to go, what do you think? Because I knew right away that you would not provide anything except the raw truth. And that is powerful. But if you don't know that about somebody, I can absolutely see how that would be not so well received. I know, Sarah, you were sharing some things where there's some perceptions where in your professional life where because this is so powerful, being, of course, number one, that it has impacted people's perceptions of you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because you don't ever want to be seen as somebody who's unapproachable. And I think oftentimes, I've been told that people are afraid of me or they don't want to come in my office and ask me for something. And, that isn't my intent. But I think because of maybe my raw maximizer behaviors in the past, that's what that stems from a little bit. But again, you're trying to make something better for the entire team. You're not just looking for yourself or your own glory or what you're going to look like at the end. It's about what the final result is for the entire team. And so if I come off a certain way, again, like what you said, Stacey, it's not the intent. You just want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can.
It's never the intent, honestly. And I mean, gosh, it would just crush me if I knew that someone didn't feel comfortable coming to me or showing me something for fear of my wanting to make it better. Like just that idea. And I'm realizing too, so still growing, right, in StrengthsFinders 14 years later. Empathy is the reason I say things like it is heartbreak and it crushes me because I genuinely don't want to be that person on the receiving end of all of this other nonsense that I'm pushing out at them, right? If it's poorly received. So it's super tough. And the idea that somebody might shy away from, it wouldn't feel good. And it would make me nervous that I probably ought not be working with someone like that because, it's not going to go the way it needs to.
Well, and I'm grateful that I have other strengths that help to diffuse Maximizer a little bit. So I also have Relator and I have Positivity in my top 5. And I think, and Positivity is pretty high for you in your top 7. So I think a lot of that comes out when you really need it to, so that you're not just a jerk. You're actually kind of being more of a let's go team. Let's really bring this up to the level we know we can make it.
Yes, I'm nodding my head because I think even over the next decade, while I'm working professionally, my challenge will be to continue to temper how that message gets delivered. And you're absolutely right. Positivity helps, empathy helps on the back end, but it's something I could practice and practice and practice. I think if I can get others engaged in the mission of making things better, that's going to be my best hope. And I see it play out. Just the other day, I asked someone on my team for a letter for something, and we sat down to meet about it, and I realized, holy mackerel, she didn't write a letter. She actually took a previous format that we had used with this same, it was for a client, and put the letter on into this format. Like, all of a sudden, I realized she had even adopted a higher standard than I had for the task at hand. And I was like just tickled, just like I have goosebumps right now because I was so proud that this person understood that, to make not to make me happy. That sounds horrible, but like to answer the bell, she went way above and beyond, and no one asked her to do that. In fact, I didn't ask her to do that, and that it happened was just like incredible. So, I mean, if I can get other people as invested in the big picture vision of what we're trying to do, I think that's what's really going to help.
So I hear you both talking about like you see these things quickly, right? That's part of the beauty of the top strengths, right? You're faster at seeing this than other people. And so, but you're talking a lot about product or process that you're looking to improve. Does it extend to people?
As in improving people? No,
Mhm.
that's never my mission. No. I mean, look at...
Not necessarily about mission. I'm even thinking the raw side of it, right? The quick reaction that things come up where you're like, oof, well, I can quickly see that you've got some faults.
I don't see that in my professional life because I am honestly fortunate to be surrounded by very intelligent, competent people. So I am not one of those people that can say, okay, there's that one person that I work with that should just not be working there. I can't say that. Every single person that I work with brings something to the table, and I don't look at them as, oh, that guy clips his nails and I can hear it down the hall, and that's annoying, but that's not a personal fault. It's just a thing. So I don't think I try to maximize personal qualities about a person, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to understand where it shows up because I don't have this.
I'm going to answer that too. So my number 2 strength is individualization, which means inherently I value every single person and what they are and who they are without any modification. Like it's on me to figure out what in you is going to help this team.
It is an interesting question. Do you so it doesn't necessarily apply to people's traits, their weight, their height, their skill at sports maybe. Does that come in?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Mm-mm.
Huh. It's just something around product and process. That's where it really focuses.
It really is because it's a team-based focus. In my mind, again, you're trying to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. You want to be successful. And how do you be successful as a team? It's not about how well you play basketball. And me thinking about other teams, like you brought up sports, I don't care who wins in a basketball game or whatever. I just want what our main mission is in work to be the focus.
I might backpedal just a little bit. I would say that it's not just what you call it, process and product. Yeah, no. I would consider like a team dynamic to be a very real and highly valuable thing, which is neither process nor product, right? It is about the collection of individuals, and to me that is something that absolutely should be maximized. I'm sure there are other examples as well.
Well, it's got, okay, so that really helps because the next question is can anyone ever achieve, are you ever satisfied?
Oh my gosh. Sarah's laughing.
I want you to answer that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I will accept. How's that? I get to a point. You guys, I mean, you know this.
The popcorn gets popped at some point.
Well, yeah.
Unfortunately, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, that is, of course, the biggest downside of being a maximizer is that I will it's the diamond polisher, right? I will continue to polish that diamond until I have no time. So even just as an example, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this in case they're listening, but I had a proposal that was due at midnight last week. Guess what time I turned it in? Do not give me until midnight.
11:59.
I mean, not quite that bad. But the point being,
And it still wasn't.
I
great.
found 2 spelling errors.
See? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And on the whole, I'm really super happy with it. So, so there's that. So it does, yes, there is an angle to it that is all about perfectionism. And I think, I'd be curious if you've experienced this too, Sarah, but it's perfectionism coupled with this intense, if I want it done right, it has to be by me.
Oh, for sure.
And that is pretty awful to live with, actually, because I can't do it all. There's no way. That's not possible. So I would say people that I work with might tell you, and again, I'm aware of this. So you talked about raw and mature. I'm in the middle. I'm like an adolescent here in this 14-year study to date experiment, 14-year experiment.
I think we all are with you on that one.
Yeah, so we're all adolescents.
Yep.
I mean, who's pressing the buttons on this silly?
It's just middle school. It's still middle school.
So something else along that journey that I've discovered is that it can commonly be interpreted as me being a control freak. And I mean, I get it. That's actually not what it is. It's not what it is.
But we experience that.
Exactly.
I say we, those of us who
Yes.
have no concept of how you're going through life. This is how we experience it.
Exactly.
And of course we say, well, you should get better at that.
Yeah. Give me another 14 years. How do you respond to that, sir?
I feel like a lot of times I am tempted to take on things that I know nothing about because I feel like I could really do it better. And that's ridiculous. Especially, I'm in my 50s. I have had so much experience at this same company. I know who's good at what. Let's just let the people that are good at it do it and then come in afterwards and maybe put a little polish on that diamond versus me trying to take on something that is completely new to me because for some reason I think I can do it better.
Well, I mean, shoot, here I am suggesting to Kyle and Jon how we might do this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever tried doing it in person? Could we experiment? Could we figure out where we could make this happen and see if it's better? And maybe it's not. Who cares? But let's just try it. Like, that is just my nature.
Well, see, that who cares part, though, I think that's part of your learning over the 14 years of you gave us that out or you made it a little bit safer in the delivery of I would want to make it better. And if it doesn't make it better, that's all right. But really, it's not all right. It's just you've learned that as a good way to help communicate what your expectations are without making people get defensive.
Yes. That is one of the arrows in my quiver for sure. So is humor. I mean, humor is a great way to, diffuse. Yeah, yeah. But I do feel, and I think you do too. I'm looking at Sarah that the more I can just kind of cheerlead and back off. And, prompt and back off, the better off everyone will be.
Yep.
So, all right. So Maximizer sits in the influencing domain. This is typically very external focused. Does it stay that way for both of you, or do you turn that inwards at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's been things that I've read about going back to the perfectionism and that maximizers don't expect themselves to be perfect, but they expect everyone else around them to be. And I don't necessarily agree with that because you're setting a standard. You have high expectations of everybody else. You have these high standards that you've put out there. And, if you've worked with anybody for any amount of time, they get the idea of what your high expectations are. So you can't turn around and put out a bunch of garbage yourself. You have to hold yourself to the same high standards, if not higher, in order to justify your behavior towards other people and your expectations of them.
How's it for you, Stacey?
I'm making a note here. Actually, perfect is the enemy of progress. That is, of all of the silly quotes you could put on the wall, that's the one I need to remember all the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, that wasn't the answer to a question that you asked, I don't think. But you could. Why don't you try the question again, Jon? Go ahead. I got distracted by my own notes.
You were still you're thinking about how we can improve what we're doing right now. Do you ever turn the maximizer internal? You maximize yourself.
Oh, as far as, do I have high expectations of myself? Is that the question?
Essentially, it's one way to interpret it, yes.
1,000%.
Are you never satisfied with yourself?
I'm never satisfied with anything. Yeah, including me. Yeah.
So how does that play out? Is that like are you constantly repeating the day's activity at the end of the day going, where did I go wrong or where could I have done better?
Yeah, except I would describe it more as minute by minute, not day by day.
Minute by minute.
Okay, 10-minute blocks, we'll call it that. The point is, it's not a place of rest. So my exhaustion, which is constant, stems from not ever being able to rest.
Does your let's go back to your top, because you rattled off your top 7 strengths before. and how they all interconnect with each other.
Yep.
In that way, that's all of those are contributing to your, I want to say, rest. There's no peace of mind.
There's no peace of mind. No, it's popcorn. I'm telling you, it's popcorn. Yeah. It's not delicious either.
So both of you lead teams and both directly have team members, and you influence others in your organizations. How did they experience that? And how have you moved them in the direction, or at least how have you run off the ones that should have been run off, and how have you kept the ones that you've kept? And how has this knowledge and this journey impacted the way that you interact with them?
Well, I lead one person. I don't have a huge team of people, and she's been with me for 10, 12 years, something like that. And God bless her, because when she first started, I was in my raw Maximizer state before I even knew I had Maximizer. And I went through so many red pens with her, and, you know, I regret that behavior now. But
using them or throwing them at her? Or both?
No physical damage. No people were harmed in this process. But, you know, she took everything very well, better than I would expect. I would, you know, if I thought that I was working for me, like if I was me working for me, I would hate it. I'd quit.
I'd love it. If I was me working for me, I would love it.
Really? But yeah, she has taken things to heart, and she has surpassed me on so many levels of creativity and innovation and things that she does really well. And I think part of that is because I've tried to support that in her, and I know what she's good at, and I've learned these things. And so it's like, run with it, you know, make it yours, make it better. And she does not have Maximizer in her top 5, but she does have developer, and I think that helps to just keep coming up with new ways to improve on things. And so I think we bounce off of each other really well. But, you know, after 12 years, she hasn't tried to murder me, and I don't know why, because sometimes I do come across as just impatient and, look, this is how we need to do it, and it's my way or the highway. And I still do that to this day, and I regret it because I know that's not how to do it right. And I know that she performs so much more in her mode, and she's just so much better at what she does if she's given the reins to accomplish what she wants to accomplish. And then I come in at the end and look at it and make some comments and some things. But thankfully, I don't have a team of 4 people that I don't know really well. I don't, you know, sometimes I've had interns that I've had a hard time connecting with because they just don't get it. And it's not their fault. It's that they come in brand new, and I have an expectation already set in my head, and I don't have the ability to explain it to them properly. And then I get frustrated, and, you know, it doesn't work out. And I'm like, okay, when is summer over? Because I don't know how to deal with this. And it's all me. It's like, you need to take a look at yourself and go, okay, well, how are you leading this person? You don't even know what their strengths are because you don't have that much time with them. You don't know what they're good at. Have you asked? Have you figured that out? And so with the person that's been with me for so long, Marika, she's wonderful. She and I have figured out that balance, I think. And she might tell you differently, but please don't ask her. And would say that we have figured out how to come up with things that are really great from both of our perspectives.
I'm going to go back to Kyle's question, actually. You said something about how many people have you run off? What a horrible statement that is.
No, it is a horrible statement, but we know that there's a lot of people who, and we all have done it too, most likely in our careers, we've left because of who our immediate supervisor or leader is. And sometimes, especially early in our careers, that raw approach or that raw display of your strengths as an early or a young manager might accidentally do that.
Yeah, well, so I'm in a situation that's a little different than Sarah, although it sounds kind of dreamy to just be working with one person. that would be incredible.
You could maximize them.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. And I will say, have a big team. I'm part of really big teams. Yeah, depending on how you define team, my team could be quite large. I would say the only thing I've learned that I cannot tolerate is people who don't care. Anything else I can live with. I will, because of this individualization and my ability to find something in everyone, my hope is that people always feel valued, people that I work with, even if I'm tough sometimes. But that I know and I genuinely believe in my heart that everyone can contribute something really great as long as they care. But if you don't care, I will write you off in a heartbeat. And that's unfortunate. I have, of course, in my professional career, come across I could count on one hand the number of people that I would put in that camp. But everyone else, I have no issue with, because they're going to contribute something to the greater good.
That also sounds like your individualization coming out.
It is. It is. Yeah, and this is the 14-year journey part too, right?
Sure.
To understand where that's coming from.
Right. That's getting past your adolescent perspective on your strengths.
Maybe.
How about on the personal side? We've talked a lot about work and a lot about our relationships at work and our journeys at work. How about on the personal side? Does this still apply?
Also terrible. Yeah. Oh, do you want me to just start talking?
Just jump right in.
Okay. I mean, even I could probably think of something from today, but I'll start with last night, right? Ordered a pizza, and like in my head, like, how are we going to pick up this pizza? And I'm maximizing exactly every step of the way. Like, it's going to be ready in 17 minutes. It's going to take 3.5 minutes to get there. If I'm parking, it's going to take extra time. And so I say to my partner, hey, will you drive me? Because in my head, I've got it all solved, right? It is done. It is baked. Not the pizza. I mean, the pizza's not ready, but like the idea of how I'm going to acquire this pizza, I'm there. And I asked a simple question, can I get a ride? And like, that opened up a can of worms. Because like, I couldn't get a quick answer. And then it was going to be 5 minutes before we were able to go. And then everything got thrown up in the air in my head. And I was like, okay, I'll just do it. And then it was just a mess. All about a stupid pizza. So that's one very recent bad example. I guess I could say too,
was it a good pizza, or did you maximize the pizza too?
It was delicious, and here's how I maximize it. I had it for lunch today, the leftover. So there you go. Okay. Sarah's cracking up.
Was it cold by the time you got there because you couldn't maximize the time?
Nope,
no,
it was perfect.
No, you still made it work.
Point being, every scenario in the world, every single thing. Like another example, we walked out of a stadium recently, and in my head, we're leaving with 3 minutes to go in the game. We're probably going to be still able to grab an Uber, but should we walk to this block where it's going to be moving in the right direction and we could pick it up going the right way? Or actually, should we walk home? It's a really pleasant night. We could, it's be a nice 45-minute walk. Should we do that? And like literally, as we're walking out, I have no idea what's happening. And my husband turned and was like, okay, he could see it. Like he sees it in my countenance, right?
All
that
these
I
thoughts
am,
going
yes,
on.
That I and
you can tell you're doing that.
Exactly. And he looked at me and he's like, "You just changed your mind 4 times in 4 seconds." And I'm like, "Nailed it. Yeah, it's horrible. It's truly horrible."
Well, so then does he help you balance it? When he sees it and he can call you on it, does he help you balance it?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes. Yep. Yeah.
Sarah's in deep thought over here, reflecting.
I just don't. I don't live that life as a maximizer.
Oh.
Well, I probably used to. I probably used to think about every little detail, and then as I've gotten older, my attention span has gotten much shorter, and so I just don't have patience for diving into every single little detail of things that ultimately aren't going to matter in my life. The pizza, it would be very disappointing to me to not get the pizza as I had expected it. But if I didn't, I could let it go. Taking big trips, for example, a lot of people want to plan out every day what you're going to do, where you're going to eat, what you're going to see, all of those things. I'm that way sometimes, and sometimes I just want to get the hell out of Dodge and see what happens. And I think because it's maybe just me or my family or however that might work, friends, whatever, I don't take it as critically as I do in my professional life.
Yeah, so now I'm trying to decide, is this the next round of maturity that I could hope to get to in living with my strengths, is that I could get to that point where I can turn it off. I don't think that's going to be possible. That sounds amazing, Sarah. Like, I kind of wish I could be you. It's just not how I'm wired.
I mean, it's possible. It could be age, it could be experience, it could be a combination of the two. It could be whatever it is. It could be environmental, it could be nature and nurture versus those. But yeah, there's that continuing journey of the awareness of, oh, it's happening. Can I just temper it? Do I have to go through all the gyrations? Do I have to go through the whole cycle? Or can I catch the cycle earlier and go, just enough? I don't know if it's possible, and maybe that could happen. I know for me, I got the deliberative, and so that happens. And the worst case scenario talent is unfortunately the way it gets labeled. And so, yeah, when I get surprised with a new policy at work, I come up with 40 reasons why it ain't going to work, like instantly. And if someone watches that process, they know right away, because my body language will convey this is ridiculous. And I used to be very vocal when that stuff would happen, because I would start going around trying to drum up support and all those things. And now it's more like, okay, let's be thoughtful. This is happening. Now, what am I going to do? Am I going to go drum up support? Am I going to change my body language? Am I going to convey to the world this is all going on? Or I'm like, is it worth it? Because this is going to be a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's starting to. So I want to say there's hope, but it almost sounds like as we continue to put that emphasis on what our strengths are, and I say the emphasis on learning what they are and how they impact our lives personally and professionally, it makes life, I don't want to say better, but it certainly does seem like it makes life better.
I think it does. It does make life better because it's about paying attention. It's the mindfulness component, the awareness, understanding what's happening. If you can get past the in the moment, that raw gut reaction, and go, hang on, it's okay. Just, right, if I give it a moment, it might pass, or I will learn how to express it in a safe way, right? That's not hurting me or hurting the people around me. It's like the whole, like, how many times do you have to write an email when you're angry, right? It's like, that's how it happens for me. And I got to say, I'm fascinated with this conversation because I'm listening to both of you and how this shows up. And a lot of the things you're talking about, I have similar qualities, but I don't have Maximizer in my top 10. But I've grown up with the perfectionism as a killer. It's so brutal, in learning how to deal with that. So like, I've worked with you, Stacey. I've seen this in action, in actual project world, and it is amazing. And there's a reason you're doing what you're doing, because it is so useful there, right? You know, and Sarah, we haven't worked in the work world together, but doing this stuff together, I see, right? Like, there are skills that you have that I don't have, and I'm like, please, yes, do this, right? Because I'm terrible at asking for help, which we both have seen painfully, right? And so the fact that I don't have this, but like all of those things, I actually internalize them. Everything you're seeing that you're externalizing to improve. And so for me, I take it all inwards, and it's more my issue than anybody else's issue, which is just really interesting to hear how this is all showing up. Right? We're all wired a little differently. And the more time we spend with it, I feel like, right, the better we get to that mature state and understand, like, maybe there's hope and we end up in a better spot. But it also helps me then go and understand the impact I'm having on the people around me, right? And so hearing how you all are wired, right, it helps me, again, bounce back and react a little bit and double check and go, I should pay more attention to what's going on and understand with the people who work with on my team who have some of the strengths that you do, right? What can I do with that? And because, again, I don't have individualization either, but I know they have strengths. I know what they are because I read them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now how can I help us kind of move in that direction?
So it's all just self-awareness. I mean, I kind of shudder to think what I was like before I even had this as a kind of a tool that I was familiar with, and being able to put names to it and being able to understand that it's popcorn and like why that is. And I mean, I don't even want to think about what kind of person I was before I had awareness of this.
And it makes a difference when you understand the strengths of the teams that you're working with, too. I mean, I am surrounded by achievers. Achiever is 33 for me. Does that mean that I don't want to do anything? No. It just means that I have to approach a problem differently or approach a project differently than most of my team would. And so that's the thing, John, is knowing that all the people around you have different things that work really well in a team environment, and you can help them figure out what their purpose and their role and their mission is in that team.
That's a really good place to close this out. We've been talking for a while, and we can talk for a lot longer too on this topic. I almost want to say that
I'll see you next time.
you'll see you next time. Follow us on LinkedIn, rippleandtent.org. But no, what was going through my mind was these two did a fantastic job. Oh, so before we go there, thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Sarah, for being here, for doing this, for trying it in person, for sharing your stories, sharing your insights, sharing how you see the world. Really do appreciate that, and I know our listener appreciates that as well. No, what I was thinking was they did an awesome job doing the intro that I think they should close this out.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Looking forward to next time. Although I won't be there, you'll be hearing John and Kyle on a future podcast.
And don't forget to come to the breakfast on Friday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The breakfast clubs are really great. If you have opportunity, maybe you're not in Colorado and you haven't been to the symposium, but I know we're making a really good effort at getting out to several cities, and I guess more on the list. So, yeah, the breakfast clubs are pretty darn good. Good exposure to these conversations.
And now we sing. You ready?
What are we singing?
Oh, I'd have to make something up.
I only do camp songs.
Okay.
We got to call it. That's it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.